So let's start with the first chapter, the basic understanding of inheritance beyond the textbooks. So let's think about this situation. Let's say we have this superclass and these all are the subclasses, correct? So we have a superclass animal, dog, horse and lion. And what does it mean is that horse is a animal, dog is an animal and horse is an animal. So it means that all the behaviors of animal is also available inside the line. Okay, so now as you can see that animal class has a method eat, or you can say do eat, or lion has a method do hunt. So how many methods lion has? Now two method lion has. One is the eat method and one is the do hunt method. Similarly, dog also has a two methods, eat and play games. Horse also has a two methods, eat and ride. Okay, so usually whenever I ask a question, or anybody is asking a question that okay, what do you understand by the term inheritance, or why the inheritance exists, what is the necessary, what is the significance, right, what is the advantage, what is the purpose of having inheritance. So usually the people immediately give us an answer that inheritance is basically the code reusability. Of course, you can observe right here that is a code reusability. Lion is using the code eat, dog is also using the code of which is written in animal class eat method, and similar as well with the horse. So dog, lion and horse is using the same code which is written in the animal class. That is what the code reusability. It is fine, it is absolutely fine, but this is a half truth. This is not only the purpose, because usually the way how the lion eat, it's absolutely different than how the horse can eat food, right? And that's why having the code reusability is a significant feature of inheritance, but it is not the entire inheritance. The inheritance is beyond the code reusability. It is basically the building the behavior hierarchy. Okay, it is providing the runtime flexibilities. It is basically the thing which is used in the framework designs. Okay, so look at right there, what does it mean? Okay, one question I usually ask, and to be very honest, I usually get the wrong answer. I also want you to give me the answer. Take a pause and then think what would be your perspective in that, right? Tell me the name of the bigger entity. Which one is a bigger entity, animal or lion, animal or dog, animal or horse? Which one is a bigger entity? Take a 1 minute break. So I hope that you have already think in that way. So the correct answer is lion is a bigger entity, not the animal. Why lion is a bigger entity? Because lion has a two behaviors to perform, right? It has a maximum behavior, and animal can have only one behavior, that is eat. So bigger entity is what? Animal is a more advanced feature. Animal is the latest feature, it is the latest version. Okay, lion is the latest version. So it is always be significant, it is always be meaningful to create the object of lion instead of animal, and that is very natural as well. We do not have any animal. We have either lion, we have either elephant, ant, cat, right, hippopotamus, but there is no animal like animal. Who is animal there? So animal is specifically the abstract class, and that's why, okay, we will be discussing about abstract class behavior later on, or understanding later on. So what we have learned so far, that animal is a bigger entity and lion is the child of animal, and now lion can perform two operations, one is eat and one is do hunt, right? But lion realize that way of eating, I do not follow that a generic, the common behavior of eat which is available in the animal class. Animal realize that my behavior of eating food should be different, correct? It is similarly something like as, let's say suppose we have a parent and child, right? So my father, if asking me that okay, you should go and pay that bill, so what would be, okay, let's assume that what would be my father's approach. So in order to pay bill, my father usually go to the office, then find out where that bill payment counter is, and then after follow the queue, then make that payment, then get that receipt, and this is what would be the process of making a bill payment, right? But what would be my approach? I will usually prefer the UPI payment, the online payment. Okay, So method is same. Method is same. Bill payment. The behavior is same in both the classes. Bill payment. But the implementation of that code, right? The way how I'm going to implement it is absolutely different than my parent. So both the classes has a different approach of doing the things, and that's what we called overridden. So if someone is asking you, okay, what is inheritance, what is overridden, you can give that that example as well. Okay, so the loin way of eating food is absolutely different than the way how the dog eats food, and the absolutely different than how the horse is going to eat the food. So every child class is going to implement the superclass method again, and that again behavior is called overriding. But there is also one more rule associated with that in case of overriding. Okay, let's say why I'm not writing, instead of overriding, instead of rewriting the method, you don't think so that why I should create one more method, do loin eat food, correct? What would be the difference in that? I can also write this method. So now I can have three methods in the loin class. One is the eat method, which is coming from the super one. Second one is the do hunt, the specific behavior of loin. And the third method is a do loin eat food, which is basically the specific method of eating behavior of loin, right? So I can also write this method. But look at right there. What would be the problem right here is that my developer will be confused. Okay, my user will be confused, will not be so, that dynamic while calling the behaviors. Why so? Let's think like this way. Let's say, suppose my user is the child, a 3 years old kid who is playing a game, right? First of all, the user is playing a game with the one animal, a loin, and second time the user shifts the animal to the dog, and the next time user shifts the animal to horse, correct? While switching from loin to dog, I have to remember that for loin I have a method loin eat food, but for rest of the others I have a method dog dot eat food or horse dot eat, correct? So for dog and horse this method will work, but for loin this method will work. It makes a confusion among the developers. It makes our code little difficult, correct? So what would be the best practice is, the best practice is that I should write the code something like whatever the animal, let's say we have an animal reference animal dot eat, okay, and this eat will be figure it out, right, whether it is loin, dog or horse, and according to that the food, the eat method will be called, okay? And that's why we are working for overridden. So that is the theoretical part which I have discussed with you so far. I will be discussing the whole scenario with you in the bigger concept right now, okay? So this is like one approach of inheritance. The first approach of inheritance is that inheritance is basically used for building the behavior hierarchy. This is the hierarchy, okay? So similarly you can assume this part is the spring object, and then after we have a spring rest, okay, we have a spring batch. Are you getting my point? So this is like a spring core, the earlier part, the basic framework, then we have a spring another framework, and then after we have a spring batch framework which is used for batch operation. Similarly you can think like as this is a hibernate or a ORM behavior, then after we have another objects or another behavior of ORM, okay? So it is basically the bigger concept, inheritance. So that's why what I'm calling it building a behavior and hierarchy. One set of behavior and then the second set of behavior. So this is one set of behavior, this is the second set of behavior, and parallelly there is another set of behavior also exists. I can also set one more hierarchical branch right there, and I call it as a bulldog, right? I call it as a bulldog, and one more hierarchical branch with ABC or XYZ dog, right? Whatever. So depending upon to my business scenarios, my business requirement. So this is one objective